Hi, everyone. We're going to give it a minute and let people start joining. Okay, let's give it one more or 10 more seconds. How about that? I see people joining, so I want to give everyone a moment. Okay. Let's get started. So, thank you everyone for joining today. We're heading into Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so many of you are gearing up to support breast cancer research. And I can tell you on behalf of BCRF, we are so grateful for your efforts. We know personally how hard it can be, and your dedication, I mean, that's what keeps us going. So first, my name is Sadia Zapp. I'm the Managing Director of Communications and Content here at BCRF, and about 3 years out from my own breast cancer diagnosis. And before we dive in, let's talk about why we're all here, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. So this year, I'm very, very excited to share some news with you all that we will be sharing next week, that BCRF is funding and we're investing nearly $75 million, our largest annual grant program in our 30-year history to fund breast cancer research this coming year. We're going to be supporting more than 260 scientists across 16 countries. That makes us, once again, the largest private funder of breast cancer research in the world and the largest private funder of metastatic breast cancer research in the world. Another key fact that I'm always very proud of is that we are the highest rated breast cancer organization in the country, which means that we are recognized for our efficiency and transparency when it comes to spending all of the dollars that you all so graciously raise for us. So we're really excited to have this opportunity to bring our dedicated fundraisers, some of whom you're seeing on the screen, to share more about the research we're helping to fund and give you a glimpse at what your peers are doing to support the cause as well. Before we get started, I do want to let you know that we have time for Q&A at the end. If you have questions for any of the panelists today, please use the Q&A button that you see across the bottom of your screen to send us your question, and we'll do our best to answer all of them. Let's dive in. Dr. Priya Malhotra from BCRF, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Sadia. I'm Priya Malhotra. I am one of the scientists on the research team here at BCRF. By way of background, I have my PhD in biochemistry and cell biology, and I have over a decade of hands-on experience in cancer research. I've been at BCRF for about 6 years, and it's given me the opportunity to use my science and research experience to make complex science easier to understand. And this is really so that anyone, regardless of their background, can see what the impact of new discoveries is. So with my fellow scientists on the research team, we go beyond the data and we try to bring meaning and context to every finding, and in ways that we hope will resonate with our audiences. We also try to demonstrate that sustained funding, particularly from BCRF, is valuable. It's not only valuable, but it's essential to improving or making advancements in breast cancer care. So together we craft and we review the scientific content that supports our other BCRF colleagues in their respective roles. And one of those is in fundraising, which brings us to the subject of the webinar today.
Thank you so much, Priya. Jennifer Feinberg, you have been a BCRF supporter for many years. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Jen Feinberg, and I have been a BCRF fundraiser since 2020, and I've been living with breast cancer since 2018. So it took me about 2 years before I started to get involved in fundraising. And I thought I'd just take a minute to tell you why fundraising for research is so important to me and why I chose BCRF. Um, my initial Well, I'll say I was the beneficiary of early detection and prevention. My initial diagnosis was stage 0 DCIS at the age of 41. I did all the things. I had double mastectomy, and yet it still came back 2 years later. And now it's stage 4, and it's in my lungs, my liver, my bones, and my brain. I am on my seventh line of systemic therapy, and I've had radiation to my brain to 24 different brain metastases. And so I feel like research is the answer and is what has, there's been so much progress, and I feel like it's going to be what gives me more time. Um, and I was initially very private with my early stage diagnosis, and I've become much more public as my disease has progressed. My fundraising journey started in October of 2020, so it was like 6 months after my metastatic diagnosis, and a well-meaning friend made a donation to a breast cancer charity in my honor. And while I thought that was a really kind gesture, it wasn't the charity of my choice. And I decided at that point, I was like, I need to tell people where I want them to make donations, especially if they're going to be recognizing me in the process. And so I did my homework and I set out to find the best, most preeminent research institution that there was. And everybody I asked said BCRF. I asked my doctors, other researchers, and the organization made it really easy for me to get behind fundraising. I easily set up a fundraising page on the portal. I shared my story and I sent it out to like close family and friends. And I didn't have any idea what our goal should be. I think I started with like, we'll raise $10,000. And then I got this overwhelming response, and the number kept changing. I kept moving the goalpost. And, then it was like 50,000, 100,000. How much can we do in 1 year? And we eventually awarded our first grant for $250,000 in our first year. And now we're working on our sixth grant. And we are on the verge, haven't quite hit it yet, but we're about to hit $1.5 million in funds raised. So it's just been a phenomenal experience, and I'm happy to talk more about it today.
Just a casual $1.5 million raised for
Pretty
research,
cool.
of course. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much, Jen. Your story is, I mean, needless to say, very heart-wrenching, but what you've done with your diagnosis, I mean, it's so heartwarming and it's so powerful also to hear your story. So thank you, of course, on behalf of patients and BCRF for everything you do. So I'm going to turn now to Andrew Dean, who has a very fun story as well. So Andrew, why don't I let you introduce yourself?
Hey, happy Friday, everyone. My name's Andrew Dean. I originally got involved in breast cancer research and awareness about 20 years ago when my mom was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And for us, it was a bonding opportunity for us to do something together and also give back to causes that were so near and dear to our heart. We saw so many benefits while she was going through her journey, and we decided to get involved. So at the time, we were raising money for many different organizations. And then a decade ago, I hopped on a Delta Airlines flight in October, and there was this flight attendant wearing this beautiful pink dress. And we got up in the air, and all of a sudden, she made this announcement saying she was raising money for the Breast Cancer Research Foundation and was asking for donations in partnership with Delta. So immediately, I looked up what BCRF was. At the time, I had no clue what BCRF did, and I saw nothing but extremely positive reviews on all the money going to research, them being highly rated. And I said, this is an organization that I want to get involved with. So over the next year, I thought of different ideas. I was originally a college mascot, professional mascot, high school mascot. So costumes have always been part of my life. And I'm also a traveling photographer, so I live on Delta flights. So what I did was I put together this costume. It's called the Pink Man suit, and it's not a suit at all. It's actually a pink spandex onesie like this right here. And what I did was I booked a series of flights that Delta did not know about on Delta flights. And I wore that costume and I hopped on a flight. And immediately people were taking photos of me. People were like, "Did you lose a bet? What's going on?" And I'm like, "I'm just here to help people raise money for breast cancer research." After my first flight, I got a phone call from Delta Corporate and they're like, "Mr. Dean, are you flying around on our planes dressed in a pink spandex onesie?" And I said, "I am." And they said, "Why?" And I'm like, I'm here to help your flight attendants and your flight crews raise as much money as we possibly can because this is a cause near and dear to my heart." And they said, "Hey, we love this idea. We think it's crazy. It's out of the box, and we want to get involved." So they called up the next flight crews and said, "Hey, let him make announcements. Let him walk up and down the aisles collecting donations." And things just kicked off from there. So after that first year, we sat down after the flight was over, and we decided to build a partnership with BCRF and Delta, where that fundraiser has continued for years and years now. This will be our 9th year doing the fundraiser altogether.
I mean, come on. That's
Right.
That's a phenomenal story. Thank you, Andrew. I think we have some incredible stories, of course, here today. So we have someone who's a patient and is using her story and her platform to raise funds for BCRF, and someone who was directly impacted because their loved one had breast cancer and they were empowered to do something by fundraising for BCRF. So thank you both for sharing your stories. I want to get into why BCRF and what is it that we do? And you both, Jen and Andrew, you both alluded to it, but Priya, can you tell us about what are BCRF's ultimate goals? What are we working towards here?
Well, of course, I think the ultimate goal is being the end of breast cancer. And what BCRF funds a wide range of research across three main pillars. The search for more targeted treatment options are especially important for metastatic breast cancer patients, and it's one area of intense focus. Metastatic breast cancer, or stage 4, is the one form that for which there's no cure, and we want a cure. So we need to understand the growth and spread of these cells. So what causes the cells to grow? What causes maybe one cell to peel off and go to other parts of the body? If we can understand this, we can make some progress against metastatic breast cancer. Prevention research is another bucket that seeks to reduce the number of women that are diagnosed with breast cancer altogether. And to do that, we really need to improve the identification of high-risk patients. And the goal is so that we can intervene or intercept breast cancer before it has a chance to start. Disparities is another focus. And while we've made tremendous progress over the last few decades, these advancements have not reached every population. And so addressing inequities is really a priority for BCRF. We want these recent developments to be a benefit to more and more people. We want to meet them where they are, and we want to make it possible that no one is left behind. So these are really the main goals of our research that we fund.
Mm-hmm. So really, these two key pillars, right? Treatment and cure, so that we're treating and saving the lives of patients just like Jen, who are relying on that next treatment to continue living their lives. And of course, prevention on the other end is how do we make sure that patients don't need to face a breast cancer diagnosis and or don't face a recurrence if they've been diagnosed with breast cancer. And underneath all of that is what you just talked about, which is making sure that no one is left behind so that progress is experienced equitably, right? So I think, thank you, Priya. I think those are really complex things that we're trying to achieve, but ultimately doable. And that's why we're here today. So, Jen, you've really used storytelling and sharing regular updates through your fundraising page that you talked about earlier as a way to keep your network engaged. How has that played a role in your personal breast cancer journey, and why do you think it's such a meaningful touch point for your donors?
Sure. I like the description of it as storytelling. I like to share updates with my community because I know they're curious as to how I'm doing. You know, people don't always want to ask, but they're always appreciative when I share the information. And also, a little selfishly, it really helps me avoid awkward conversations at times. I can run into someone at the grocery store or wherever, and it can just be as simple as like, "Oh, did you see my update?" Or they tell me that they saw it, and I don't have to rehash my journey every time I come into contact with someone. But I also use it to convey how important it is to me. I'm viewing, when I ask for donations, I'm asking for people to invest in research on my behalf because it makes a difference. And I want people to see me living my full life. Yes, I have this disease, but I also have two daughters in high school and a life to live. And that's so important to see that you can invest in research and help people live longer and healthier lives. And, on my personal journey, it has given me something to have, fundraising has given me something to have control over. Like I have no control how I respond to drugs and or what drugs are available to me. But this is something that I can control. And I can, rally people to support as well. And also, it gives my community a chance to be supportive, especially in the beginning. People, come out of the woodwork with offers for physical help, like meal trains and rides. But this is a marathon. It is a long trajectory, and not everybody lives in town, and so it's a way for people beyond my immediate circle to really be supportive. And I think it's just been like really profoundly impactful for my whole family and community.
Mhm. And I mean, that's very powerful to hear, of course. And Andrew, similarly, the nature of your fundraising is so creative and invites people to really learn more about what you're doing and why. So, what are some of the outside the box idea that you've tried over the years to inspire donations, and really, how has that helped you connect with new supporters?
So my fundraising is very unique from the start. People do not expect to hop on a plane and see someone wearing a pink spandex onesie. And for me, that's the ultimate icebreaker right there. It gives people a reason to ask why. And as soon as they ask why, I'm able to share my story with them. I've had flights where I'll just be standing in the airport acting like I'm not paying attention, but there's people all over that are taking photos of me. And same thing when we get on the plane. And there's every once in a while people are like, look at this guy, and just talking negatively about me. And then once we take off, I get up in the air and I make this announcement. And I call it my elevator pitch. It's 30 seconds where I have the opportunity to inspire someone to give money. And as soon as they hear why I'm doing this, all of a sudden it changes from this negative, oh, look at this crazy guy, into now I want to give.
Mm,
And it's really for me, that's the spotlight that I get. But there's so many different things I do as well. I use social media aspects as well, where social media brings in just as much money. Where throughout the day when I'm doing this 30-hour fundraiser, I'm posting on social media throughout the day, just giving updates and challenging people. Say, hey, I'm on a flight right now from Atlanta to Salt Lake City. It's 3 hours long. I'm going to try to raise $1,000 on the in the air. Why don't you on the ground help push this to other people? Let's see if we can raise $2,000 on the ground.
mhm,
And the main thing for me is lots of people do long extended fundraisers. And for me, I think the way to go for me personally is doing what I call flash fundraisers. All these fundraisers start the moment that I take off, and the fundraiser ends the moment that I land. And we always have crazy goals. Maybe it's $10,000, maybe it's $20,000 to raise during that time. But I want people to give right in that moment. Because I know as a person myself, if I see someone doing a fundraiser and they say, hey, this is going on for the next 2 months, I forget to give. So if
mhm,
someone says, hey, you have the opportunity to give right now, but you can only give right now, that forces them to give in the moment.
mm. Well, I mean, I think it's so interesting, and it's such a bold move on your part and really requires that sort of bravery, right? There's a lot of bravery involved and courage involved in letting people think of you, as you said, sort of thinking you're this crazy guy, and until you get to that point where you can do that reveal and show why you're putting yourself out there the way that you are. And both of you have done that, right? Like Jen has been talking about how you put yourself out there, and that's so vulnerable, but it's also very brave and courageous. So you both have these really powerful stories in the way that you make yourselves vulnerable to people because you so passionately want to support research. Speaking of that research, Priya, let's talk about some of the advances that really have completely changed breast cancer treatment and wouldn't have been possible without BCRF, so that our viewers, fundraisers, can take some key points so that when you're out there and you're talking about why, like how Andrew says, I give them my 30-second elevator speech. Let's hear about what's that 30-second elevator speech. What are some of the key points that people need to know about why their fundraising dollars to BCRF, you're making a difference?
Well, first of all, I want to say I can't wait to run into Andrew on a Delta flight. I think that would be so fun.
Yeah.
So back to your question. We've made incredible progress over the last 30 years, and this is evidenced by the 44% decline in deaths from breast cancer since 1993. We now know that breast cancer is not one disease, but it's several, and each of them will need their own treatment. The more we know about that, the more we can personalize breast cancer treatments. These are really unprecedented times. The FDA in the last decade has approved 17 new treatments for breast cancer based on the findings of BCR investigators and others. And 10 of those were approved in the last 5 years alone. So amazingly, there have been more novel treatments approved for breast cancer in the last decade than in the prior 3 decades combined. So that's how quickly we're moving forward. And thanks to research, we're also now able to better identify which patients do and which patients don't need chemotherapy. And chemotherapy is sometimes a concern when someone first has their breast cancer diagnosis. And we also now know more about risk factors for breast cancer, and that includes genetic mutations. So this is just a handful of examples of the many, many strides we've made against the disease.
Mm-hmm. I think that that's so powerful. You hit on so many key points right there, which is the tangible impact we've really made on improving survival rates, but also in extending the lives of metastatic breast cancer patients while we continue driving forward and continue pushing the boundary in terms of finding targeted treatments. So the right treatment for the right patient. Um, Jen and Andrew, you've both really persevered through challenging fundraising climates over the years. We're in one right now. How have you navigated that, and what would you share with those on the call to help them feel really confident about fundraising going into Breast Cancer Awareness Month? Let's start with you, Jen.
Sure. And I saw a question pop up that I'm hoping to address as well. So even with the ups and downs and challenging fundraising climates, I feel a little bit insulated from that because I am so personal in sharing my story, or I'm sharing it with my personal network. And so those people are there and supportive. And I have found that there are a lot of people out there who are charitable and want to do, year-end giving and don't necessarily have their own cause. And so by sharing my cause with them, I'm engaging them to give to BCRF. It's just, it's a good fit. Um, and I like I said before, I like to share, that their investment in research is really having an impact. I also try to tie my requests to, year-end giving. I find that's a very effective time of year. But I also will tie it to special occasions. I just did a post about my birthday, or last year I did something around Breast Cancer Awareness Month, or when I'm engaged in advocacy, I like to share the content that's become available or if I've had a change in treatment. But I do try to limit my updates to like 2 to 3 a year because I don't want to oversaturate people's inbox with messages. And I saw the one question I'll try to address, for at least personally from my perspective. I have found that using the BCRF online platform has been really effective. And Sadia, I can let you talk to the difference between using like a Facebook fundraising page, which I understand maybe not doesn't get to you guys as quickly as when it comes through the platform. But also part of my approach has been direct asks to people, and I find those more effective to generate giving. And then I save social media for later. And we can talk more about that later as well. But
I mean, I'll jump in really quickly just to answer that question around which one is better. Number one, whatever is easy for you, right? So we want to make sure that our fundraisers feel as empowered in their fundraising as possible. So if you find one or the other, like just going directly through Facebook to be easier versus setting up your own page like Jen, like you have done, go for it. But of course, like you mentioned, setting up your own page on our site also kind of gives you so much flexibility because I mean, it's your page. You can update it, you can change it. It's really, really customizable, very intuitive and easy to use. I mean, I think that's also what you're saying.
Yeah.
And also you can embed that link onto social media. So if you're using social media, you can still put your link into your, on an Instagram story or on Facebook or whatever it is that you're doing. So do whatever is easy for you. But yes, we do encourage you to use our online platform because it gives you that flexibility and lets us keep track in real time and lets you keep track in real time about your of your goal as well. So, Andrew, I'm going to throw that question, not this question, but the question I had before around how you keep going, especially when the environment can be challenging.
So the last 5 years have been absolutely wild. Of course, we all went through a global pandemic 5 years ago, and so much of my fundraisers are based off of airplanes being full of people. And when the pandemic happened, all of a sudden we had empty planes, and we wanted to continue on with this fundraiser. So there were a lot of things that we had to go through, which one of them was not being in direct contact with people. I could not be up close with as many people. So while I was still flying, all of a sudden I moved much of my fundraising over to the online aspect. So I might be on a plane with 7 people. Well, that's not many people to get to. So I was asking those people to share my story, take photos and all that kind of stuff and share my story. But I was also making updates every hour on social media, asking people to get involved and talking about ways to get involved.
Mhm.
After that, 4 years ago, my mom was re-diagnosed. She was diagnosed with stage 4 triple negative metastatic breast cancer. And at that time, we had a long talk, and we said, "Hey, this is our time that we need to get more involved with BCRF than ever before." And like you said, so much money is going to metastatic, which is so important. She unfortunately passed away about a year and a half ago, but the time that she was alive with us, many of the treatments that she was on, we looked up, and some of them were directly because of BCRF. So I was able to have months that we did not expect to have with my mom, which changed our life. And it was one of those things where she said, "You need to keep doing this and keep going forward." So we've really pushed forward to find different ways. One thing to me, you never know what someone else is going through. So when someone gives me a donation, I don't care if it's 50 cents, I don't care if it's $1,000, I don't care if it's $10,000. It's always the same thank you. I never look at the amount that they give. I always have them put money in a hat or a bag. And it doesn't matter how much they give because that person that gives $10,000 might be one of the richest people in the world. I've had celebrities that give me giant checks. And then that person that gives you 50 cents might only have $100 to their name. So that amount, it doesn't matter. It's that it came from the heart. And that's one thing that has really helped me is most of the donations that I receive are pretty small. But because so many people get involved, we're still able to raise $15,000, $20,000 over a single day.
Hmm. I mean, first, Andrew, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know that that's, I have a little boy, so I hope that if, I mean, God forbid, but I always hope that I think every mom hopes to be loved by their child that way. So I can't speak for your mom, but I imagine that I would be so proud of my son if he was raising money for
Thank
breast
you.
cancer. So I, want to dive into something that you talked about which is that you found different ways, you found creative ways to circumvent, to get around the fact that there were fewer people on the airplane. And I think that is really interesting too, was just getting creative. And it spoke to what I mentioned earlier, thinking outside of the box. If you could share one other piece of advice to those who are gearing up to fundraise this October or year round, whenever, what would it be? And let's keep going with you, Andrew, for a second.
I'd say you have to make everything personal and never be afraid to ask for a donation because people are always willing to give. And one of the hardest things to do is ask because a lot of people are scared of that. But if you don't ask, then people aren't going to give because you didn't ask. One thing for me is you have to make things personal. We have access to so many tools out there, and I use the BCRF website for everything I do. My initial fundraiser is always through BCRF, the website. And I set that up and I encourage people to go there by sharing the link on Facebook, Instagram, X, any social media, LinkedIn, all the different apps. And then throughout the day, I start adding different things in, like the Facebook fundraiser. And we've all seen Facebook fundraisers come through. And initially, when you set it up, it's one of those things where this cause is near and dear to my heart, and they have a template. And what I've noticed from a lot of people is a lot of people don't go in and change that template to make it personal to themselves. They just leave it the normal thing.
Mm.
And for me, that it might be important to you, but by not going in and changing it, you didn't take the time to do something that might make an impact. So I go into my Facebook fundraiser and I change it to this is why this is personal to me. And as soon as that Facebook fundraiser goes live, all of a sudden the donations once again skyrocket. And
Mm.
it is such an important way to get people involved. So I say you have to use everything that you can to do that.
Mhm.
And also find ways to people will make up excuses. Oh, we don't have Wi-Fi on this flight. Well, guess what? I have a business card. Here's a business card. So now when you land, now you can go make your donation because you said you want to give, but you gave an excuse. So I found a way around that. Or, oh, the website's too long. Well, it's pinkmanflight.com because I bought the domain name for $9.99 a year. And I can redirect that right to BCRF. Or if they're too lazy, here's a QR code. I was doing QR codes before QR codes really even existed for people. And they're just all these things where if someone says, I want to give, but
Mhm.
find a way to beat that but so they can still give. That sounded interesting. But
Yeah. Yeah.
find a
I
way.
think what you're getting at is tenacity. It's
Yes.
you have this sort of unshakable tenacity when it comes to asking for donations and sort of not being shy when you're doing that. Jen, what about you?
Andrew, I'll just repeat what Sadia said, which is you're such a great role model for all of our kids that, that someone they can look up to for a path forward in dealing with all this. So thank you for everything that you're doing. I would piggyback on that and say the overall theme would be intentional and I have a couple of tips on how to do that. One is lead by example. So like make a donation on your own fundraising page so people can see that your name is there and that you're also supporting the cause. And you don't have to reveal the amount. You can keep that private if you want. But I just think that like if you're going to ask other people to give, that you should demonstrate that too. I think timing really matters. I am very intentional about the time of day that I send my messages out. I try not to do it on a busy work day. I try to save it for like a weekend morning when I envision people having coffee and reading the newspaper and they actually take the time to read it. And that's sometimes when I get the most responses from people. And like you said, Andrew, like direct asks make a really big difference. And like I was saying before, I think going out to a community and ask people individually, I mean, I do that by email because I'm a little, the direct in-person ask is very hard for a lot of people, especially for me. And then it gives people sort of a chance to say yes or no on their own time. I've also learned over the years that I add ways to donate little paragraph at the bottom of every email because it answers a lot of the questions. I include a link to my fundraising page, instructions on how to send a paper check, instructions on how to send a donor advised fund donation, and also a link to the corporate matching instructions. And so people can take advantage of that and they don't have to keep coming back and asking me for it. It's all right there. And then the last thing would be consider creating a team. My oldest daughter decided to do some fundraising during the pandemic because she couldn't do an in-person service project. So she shared her story. She raised a lot of money and she's part of our team. And so our family is working together towards the same goal. And that feels really good because we're able to collaborate and it just had a powerful impact on all of us. So
Mhm.
those are my thoughts. I see some other questions, but I haven't read them.
Yeah, we'll get some. We're gonna
Okay.
get back to the questions right after this next question that I have for Dr. Malhotra. So Priya, as individuals and groups continue to fundraise for BCRF this fall and into next year, what are some of the newer and exciting areas of research that their efforts will help support? So we've talked about, well, and we're going to touch again on some of the key message points, but what's the latest? Like what's coming down the pike that we are really excited about?
Well, there are several things, but for me, I think antibody drug conjugates are really an exciting treatment. They're really changing the landscape of treatment for cancer patients. And they are actually the fastest cancer growing cancer therapeutic. So there's more and more research behind producing more antibody drug conjugates. And basically, so I'm going to get my nerd on a little bit. I like to say that they are innovative drug delivery vehicles. So basically, it's an antibody conjugated or linked to an anti-cancer drug. Antibodies are made in laboratories against specific factors on tumor cells. So antibodies enter the system, they are seeking out those factors. When they bind them, they release the attached drug. And that is super important because they are actually releasing the drug at the tumor site. Now, this is very different than chemotherapy. Chemotherapy targets fast-growing cells and some healthy cells like hair cells. So antibody drug conjugates just apply that level of specificity that can really target the tumor and hopefully minimize like side effects from it. Now, I know that everyone we're sort of inundated with what's going on in AI, and it's great that we're actually on the precipice of AI drastically changing risk assessment for breast cancer. Now, for example, the Clarity Breast is an imaging tool. It is a first-in-class FDA-approved tool that's actually for breast cancer risk prediction. So this tool can predict someone's 5-year risk of breast cancer from their existing mammogram. And that's one important point. The second important point is that it can be used in women with dense breasts. And typically younger women have dense breasts. And unfortunately, we're seeing an alarming increase in the incidence of breast cancer in that population. So having a tool like this that can be used for a woman with a dense breast is really a big advantage. Another area is immunotherapy. Now, these drugs are ways to harness the immune system to work against cancer. And they have had some success in some cancers, including in triple-negative breast cancer. But we're really working to improve the ways that we can leverage a patient's immune defense system to work against their cancer. And researchers are going anywhere from trying to develop drugs that unmask the cancer cells so that it can be recognized by the immune system, to finding ways to wake up the immune system. So progress in immunotherapy is really progressing by leaps and bounds. And there really is so much happening in the breast cancer research space, but I think these are 3 pretty important areas.
Yeah, I mean, you're really talking about cutting edge technology, right? You're really talking about what is the most innovative science happening, not just in the US, but globally, right? Because we are funding scientists across 16 countries. And I think that's also what makes BCRF so unique. It's that collaborative model bringing these kind of cutting edge treatments like ADCs that you just mentioned, the antibody drug conjugates, sort of this revolution that's happening in risk assessment thanks to AI. And BCRF serves as that bridge between these scientists around the world, and that's what we've made possible. We're going to head into Q&A, but before we do that, I wanted to give a call out to a few resources available to you this season. So I think we're gonna have some slides, but maybe not. So there are some important dates to keep in mind during October. They can be really great moments to tap into to remind your network why you're fundraising. So key dates, so you can find some fundraising tips. I would say scan this QR code for a fundraising toolkit. You'll get really everything you need when it comes to messaging, how to keep people inspired throughout the whole month. And these different days that you have here are also great touch points, especially if you're fundraising throughout the month. That's one of the questions that we also received is how do you recommend keeping donors engaged? We have different touch points throughout the month that you can also leverage. And actually, I should mention on September 30th, we are hosting another webinar that everyone is welcome to join, the Risk Revolution, on this topic. How is AI about to change everything when it comes to risk assessment, prevention, and diagnosis? I hope you all join. I spoke to Dr. Connie Lehman just yesterday, and every time I talk to her, I just can't believe the words that are coming out of her mouth. So it's so amazing, very, very interesting, and I hope you join us on September 30th. So again, I hope you caught that QR code. If not, our colleagues are available to share the toolkit with you guys. I'll give you a second, take a screenshot, and then we can go to, yep. We also, I will say, we have this new incredible resource that we launched this spring uh, about breast cancer. You can find it on our landing page when you go to bcrf.org, or you can scan this QR code right here. I'll give you a second to take another screenshot. And it's really, there's just this wealth of information online. And the vast majority of it, and when I say online, I'm including social media, is completely false and unreliable. But uh, if you are turning to sources like BCRF that are reliable, research-backed, evidence-based, you know that it's a source of truth. It can be a source of truth when it comes to a lot of breast cancer topics. So if you're going through breast cancer, if you know someone who's going through it, just know that this reliable source is available to you and your loved ones. And even just if you're a person looking to learn more about their health, so that if God forbid you find yourself in this situation, you know, um, you can speak the language a little bit better. So now we're going to dive into questions. There was a great one here for you, Jen, about how to describe how to find this viewer is asking how you break down complex concepts like DCIS, ductal carcinoma in situ, otherwise known as stage 0, and recurrence when breast cancer comes back. Any advice on how to explain a breast cancer diagnosis in fundraising?
I don't have a good answer to that. Um, I've tried to explain it in simple terms because I think when you get into the weeds on the science, a lot of people get lost. I have kept it fairly high level to explain that, DCIS is a non-invasive cancer. It's the earliest stage of cancer, but nobody knows why after my treatment it came back as stage 4. I mean, my saying is it just takes one rogue cell. Like, who knows? Was it there the whole time? I didn't have any full body imaging after I had my double mastectomy. So maybe it was lingering. Maybe it just came out over those 2 years. I don't know. I've tried to educate people a little bit, but the level of understanding just varies. Why don't there's a thumbs up for me? Oh, hi. um, it, everyone understands it in their own way. And I've tried to just use resources from BCRF and other scientists to do the explaining for me because it's very complex and it's hard for me to explain it myself. I wish I had a better answer for you, but it's always shocking to people when they hear, stage 0 to stage 4 in such a quick amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm not alone.
Yeah.
Can I join in on that one for a second?
Yes, absolutely.
When my mom was going through her treatments and everything, it was a very difficult thing to explain to people, and people didn't really know what her diagnosis meant. But what she did a really good job in was explaining what she was going through. So while people didn't exactly know what stage 4 triple negative metastatic breast cancer meant, they understand what she was going through because she was sharing everything that was going on in her life when it came to how she was feeling and what kind of treatments she was on, how long the treatment was taking, how long she was in the hospital for different times. And that was one thing that really resonated with people and allowed them to see what she was going through. So while she wasn't able to explain exactly what her diagnosis meant, it broke it down for people in a way that they were able to simply understand.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Andrew. Very helpful. Yeah. Um, you know, there was another question here about specific messaging tactics. Like, are there one-liners? Are there things that you say about BCRF maybe? And again, I'm just gonna throw this. I think Andrew, you mentioned your elevator pitch. Can you give us a little flavor of what that 30-second speech
Ooh.
looks like? Putting
Great.
you on the spot. Yeah.
It's been a while. It goes very much. Hey guys, my name is Andrew Dean. Today I'm spending the next 30 hours flying around the country with the sole purpose of raising as much money for breast cancer research as possible. I've been doing this for the last 9 years in honor of my mother, who went through 2 different journeys with breast cancer and unfortunately lost her life about a year and a half ago due to it. We have always raised money, and we believe that this is a worthy cause, and we have directly seen the benefits of research, and research helped extend her life due to that. And we had many good times together that we did not expect to have, and we give a lot of that credit to BCRF and the researchers that people have done. In a minute from now, I'm going to be walking up and down the aisle of the plane or the gate area collecting donations. If you want to give, it doesn't matter the amount that you give. What matters most is that you get involved. On behalf of myself, my entire family, and BCRF, we all appreciate your donations, and I wish you all the best of days. Thank you. That's about
Andrew,
it.
I
So,
mean, I don't think it's been a while. I think you just did it before the call and practiced it before you got on. So that was wonderful. And I think if you're not a marketer, then you definitely were at in another life because you kind of touch on key elements of storytelling. That's what you're doing, right? It's being very clear and concise. I'm raising money for breast cancer research. Your personal story, highlighting just how and making it so that people can relate to you because everyone has a mom and most people know what that feels like, that heart-wrenching feeling that you explain, and then just tying it back to like it's very doable. Any amount counts. So you thread the needle so elegantly in those quick little sound bites. I'll help for those of you looking for just quick, like, what's the one thing I need to know about BCRF? I think for donors, a lot of the things that I've found really resonates is saying that we're raising money for the highest rated breast cancer organization in the country. I see you guys nodding, so I think that you probably have found this as well. People immediately know, okay, I can trust them because there's a lot of cynicism out there about breast cancer causes and where is the money actually going? But hearing that kind of gives that immediate validation that can put people at ease. And two, the largest private funder of breast cancer research in the world. We are really lucky our name is so you know what we're doing, right? There's no ambiguity. What do we do? Who are we? And so just reiterating that we're the largest private funder of breast cancer research, also the largest private funder of metastatic breast cancer research. I think those two things have turned out to be some of the most important facts for people to know. Something I just shared on Instagram yesterday in guiding people on how to choose a charity was that it's really important to know what your values are. What do I care about? For a lot of people in the breast cancer space, that's research, knowing that research matters to me. And so if this is a cause that matters to you, then finding that sort of that efficiently rated, that the charity that you know is doing the work the best that they can be doing. So they're as efficient and transparent with their model as possible. So that efficiency rating. And then finally, you want to make sure you're getting behind the organization that has the infrastructure that is built to do the best work because we've spent 30 years developing a scientific advisory board that finds the best scientists around the world and is funding those people and giving them the freedom to do their work. So I will say highest rated breast cancer organization, largest private funder of breast cancer research. If you have to know two things about BCRF, those are two of the most important things that I would say could help tell that story. And of course, using the elements that both Jen and Andrew have highlighted, the personal side of it, if you have a personal connection, to drive it home and to make that connection between you and the other person, even if that person is a stranger. And one thing I will end with is that you both are so bold. I mean, Jen, you raised a $1.5 million. That's no small feat. I mean, Andrew, you're so bold in your asks. I am not that bold. I do not know that I could not raise $1.5 million for anything. But it's sort of what you say, Andrew, is like it's just about getting involved. It doesn't matter how much you're ultimately raising or giving. It's about that action, sort of taking that action because it takes all of us, right? Together. It's our collective power. It's not any individual person's power. It's how we are working together to move the needle, right? And drive it forward. So I'm just going to take a quick look to see if we have any other questions. I saw this from Jeffrey Johnson, who was talking about a limited edition prints launching on September 28th. Thank you, Jeffrey. We really appreciate it. We have one more question here. Oh, this is a really good one. How do you fundraise around something that also creates fear? When people hear my story of being diagnosed postpartum, it creates a lot of fear. That's a really great question. I have some thoughts on it, but Jen, do you find that a challenge as well, especially when people hear metastatic? I am sure they have a reaction.
Yeah, I joke sometimes. I'll get referrals from people and say, my friend was just diagnosed with breast cancer. Can you talk to them? And then I do. And then I realize that they have no idea that I'm stage 4. And when I share it, it completely freaks them out. So now I give the caveat, I'm happy to talk to your friend, but please make sure that they know what I'm dealing with. And I try to, put it out there from the
Mm,
beginning. I also think the fear creates urgency. I mean, nobody, like, this is it's so unfair. And I think it can motivate people to support the cause because you never know who it's going to happen to somebody you love or somebody you know. And so I think there's a way to message around it to say, like, this is what I'm dealing with, and motivate people to support your cause. But I'd love to hear your thoughts too, Sadia.
Yeah, I mean, Linda, you clearly know, you're clearly in our world because you also know how common it is, the fact that younger women, especially, are at an elevated risk for breast cancer within the first 10 years of giving birth. So after you have your first child, until your child graduates from elementary school, you should just really be more aware of your body. So I do find I was similar on the same boat. My son was 4 years old. I was well within that 10-year window when I was diagnosed. And I think that the way, I mean, you're absolutely right. People really get freaked out when I tell them that stat, but it's more about like in general, breast cancer, especially in this population for women under 50, is still, especially for women under 40, I was diagnosed at the age of 36. It's still relatively rare, right? It's still relatively rare in the broad population of things. But again, I always say like rare is meaningless. Once you've been diagnosed, that means nothing. But I use it to empower people. Like you should just know your body. If you've had a baby, just know your body and pay attention. And then if you do see changes and things that are alarming, you keep track of it. Keep track of it for a month. Don't freak out right away. But I kept track. I found my own lump, just like most patients under the age of 40 find their own lumps. And I just noted it for a month. Every week, I'd be like, "Is it still there? Still there? It's still there." And then finally, I went and got it checked out. So I think for me, it's more of a message of, you know, just be aware of your body and don't dismiss concerns that you have, especially if they persist. So make sure that persistent changes to your body and concerns that you have are addressed and addressed adequately. Because, I was at one of our BCRF sort of symposiums where all of our researchers are together, and it was so validating when one of our scientists on stage said it's just no longer acceptable for any doctor to tell a young patient it can't be cancer, it's impossible, right? It's just no longer, you can't say that anymore, given how quickly and rapidly breast cancer incidence is rising, especially in younger people. So that's one thing I'll say is it is scary, but you can't let your fear stop you from being proactive about your health because at the end of the day, we do know that early detection does matter in the vast majority of cases. So I think those are all of the questions that we've had. Are there any final thoughts that you, Jen, Andrew, or Priya would like to share?
Along those lines of fear, it is one of those for me, as I have not gone through breast cancer like both of you. But one thing that I do is I always try to keep something positive on there as well. Yes, it is extremely scary, but look at all the changes that have been made through research over the years, and that's a very, very positive thing. So while there is a lot of fear in there, if people bring that up because I talk to survivors all the time, I talk about the amount of changes that have happened due to research. And that's because of people that decide that they want to get involved and give. So everybody that has ever given money to research is part of the positive aspect of making a difference in the world today.
Perfect.
I find you guys really inspirational, very moving stories, and I really appreciate the work that you do. It's really important.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and always happy to share my story, as alarming as it is. But I really do find that connecting with other people in the breast cancer community has been a really um, helpful in my own journey. Happy to be a part of the BCRF family.
And you are all, I think you all and everyone who's joined on our call, if you've made that effort to join a webinar on a Friday afternoon, you're in our family. So we appreciate you. We appreciate your desire to make the world a better place by trying to help save the lives of women like myself, like Jen, who are really trying to survive this disease. So Andrew, Jen, Priya, I'm so grateful to all of you for your time today. And I can't wait for October to see all of the magic that you'll be spinning. So thank you all.
Use this toolkit. Use this toolkit right here. There is so much good information in there. And I just was going through it just a minute ago. There is so much in there that can help inspire you and get you involved and inspire others to give. So use the resources that you have available because that will help you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew, you're hired. Okay, well, hope everyone had a great time listening to us and please let us know if you need any help. Our colleagues are here for you. So thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank
Jen.
you.